Hello, welcome to the final episode in our marriage series. We'd like to appreciate you all for your comments and interest in what we have been sharing. In case you're watching this for the first time, we have been doing a series on marriage. We have been married for 6 years and we decided to share a few insights, lessons, and experiences on some of the things we have discovered about marriage. You can check out my YouTube channel. I believe you'll find some videos that will help you to get a solid foundation in your own relationship. In this final part, we would like to talk about dating. A number of people expressed interest in that, and we just thought we could share our own dating journey and what are some of the things that we considered while during that phase. Because I believe that dating lays a foundation for a healthy marriage. And in this episode, we are going to look at 3 things, beginning with the issue of boundaries, because I think it's very important that if you have the same value system, you need to come up with boundaries that are going to help you to keep those values intact so that they can protect you. Diana, would you like to take it away from there?
So boundaries, I think for us, one of the things that we did at the very beginning when we said we were going to start dating was Jesse said, these are the things that we need to stick by. So we had the boundaries from the start. So it was proactive rather than reactive. So we had a set of guidelines by which we were going to have a relationship. And I think one of the biggest was about, what would we call it?
Sexual purity?
Yes, okay, sexual purity. So how are we going to achieve that? And one of the things was, like, we would not be in places alone. So I never ever went to Jesse's house, even when he started staying alone when we were dating. I never went there. When he would drop me home sometimes, he would maybe just, come at the door and then leave, especially if I was going to be there alone. If maybe my brother was there, then he would enter, talk to him, and then leave. So yeah, things like that. But I think for me, the most important was that we set the boundaries in the beginning. And so we started off knowing what we should do.
True. Thank you. And just to add to that very point, for something like that, for any boundary or any value that you put in place, it is helpful when both of you buy into it. So if one, for example, values that, if someone values sexual purity and you feel that we want to stay pure until we are married, and the other person does not quite buy into it, most likely it will be broken because one party does not buy into it. So it's important that whatever you come up with, you both agree, because this is what is going to protect you. Remember, how you live your life while dating has got a huge implication on how you live when you're married. So it's important that you have things that are going to help you, to protect you, so that you can keep your values intact.
I just remembered something. When we started dating, we used to spend a lot of time on the phone. Like in the evening, we would talk and talk and talk for hours. And then we realized that it was affecting our time, like to read the Bible, to spend time with God. And we had to set a limit and say, okay, we will only talk for like an hour so that we have time to spend with God, because that time was now beginning to suffer because of our relationship, which was wrong.
True.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So that is boundaries. The second thing that we would like to look at is openness. Being open. Yes, that can be a hard place to be, but it's very important. It's important that you be as open, as honest, as transparent. If I could just name it another way, I would say have a hot culture. This is what I mean. Where hot means honest, open, and transparent. Be as transparent, be as open as possible. Why? Because whatever you keep away from your partner, when you finally get married and it comes out, it can have some really hard effects on you too. In our case, there were things that I had to be open about. For example, when we were still dating, I had a financial debt that I had to let her know I was servicing, and it was good for her to know that there is something I was dealing with as far as my finances were concerned. So I had to open up to her about what I was dealing with. I had to open up with Diana about my income so that she doesn't expect me to be earning a certain amount of money, and when we get into marriage, it is totally different. So there are things that we had to be very open about. Any other thing that you would add to that?
I think maybe also being open about your beliefs, and I think having honest conversations helps you to understand the other person's line of thought. What do they believe? What do they believe about doctrine? What's their doctrine? What do they believe? What do they believe about marriage? Like, someone can have a skewed thinking that you just assume that you're on the same line of thought, but being able to say, this is what I think and this is what I believe, then you understand, how the other person is thinking. And so you're able to understand where they're coming from and how that thinking will eventually affect your relationship and your marriage. So that kind of honesty helps you to have really a solid foundation of where you're starting from.
Absolutely. Yeah. There could be things that, that you might find hard to bring out. Take, for example, if you have a child and you don't want your partner to know, or you might be wondering, how do I open up to something like this? The bottom line is maintain openness. Now, in that case, you might want to bring in a counselor, you might want to bring in a third party, but at the end of the day, it is only better that they walk into marriage when they know. Because if they get to know when you have already committed yourselves, you might have quite a hard time trusting each other. So whatever things you feel you need to know, I mean, if they cannot stand it, it's much better they get to know before than after. Yeah. The other thing that we were very intentional about in our own dating relationship was investing in our relationship. We wanted to know more about marriage, and we did this in many ways. One, we took time to read books. Right here, I was looking at a book. It's called Fresh Apples for Single People by my friend Samba Kutana. In this book, he talks about 33 secrets to a relationship that leads to marriage. In this book, in number 32, he talks about investing in your relationship, and he writes quite a number of helpful things about how you can invest in your relationship. That's one of the things we did. So investing in books like this would be very good for you. We were able to read the 5 love languages even while we were still dating. We also took time to attend some conferences together on marriage and getting to hear what other people thought about marriage. And then we also had time to meet some couples, older couples, people that have walked this journey. And that was quite reassuring and encouraging for both of us. Yeah. I
think for me, even some of those conversations that we had while we were still dating, they still come back to me, and I can still, remember what this person said. And it might not make sense then, but like many years later, it could make sense. So we had a lot of people who would come and give us advice and who would reach out to intentionally. Or books we read. There were a couple of books that we read, and they were very helpful. I think then they didn't make much sense, but now, you might remember just even one line, but it makes a difference.
True.
Yeah.
Thank you. I remember one of the couples we visited, Edward and Christine Mupada. I still remember them, that particular visit, because one of the things they talked about was that they had made up their minds before marriage to stay together. Okay? Now, when they did that alone set the standard for what would happen in marriage, because then later on they had opportunities to work away from home, where someone would probably go up country or another one would go out of the country. But because they had made a value, they had set their standard on living together, they said, look, it's okay, we can say no to something else because it doesn't quite fit within what we have decided to agree to. So hearing such couples, hearing their invaluable knowledge was very helpful in preparing us. I still remember another couple that mentioned a very profound statement. They said, great marriages are not formed, they are forged. Meaning, great marriages happen as a result of forging. In mechanical engineering, forging is where you use heat to solidify metals. And that is the process. That conflict helps marriages to become stronger. Hearing these things before marriage just prepared us, because then we knew that when certain things arise, it's not that they are out of the norm, it is just that we need to know how to handle them. Great. Then any parting shots for dating couples out there?
Dating is fun, and sometimes you think that the way you are when you're dating is the way you will be when you get married. And yet it's so different. Like, it's just so different. So to also, that's why that preparation is necessary, so that you also have healthy expectations of when you get married. When you're dating, you go twice a week, you go out to a restaurant. When you get married, man, you have to save that money, and you will not be going out probably twice a week to some fancy restaurant.
Sure.
So you need that kind of preparation, so that you know that when you enter marriage, things will be different. Or even if when you have a conflict when you're dating, you go home and you're able to cool off on your own without, but when you get married, the person is there, you have nowhere to run. So you have to begin to deal with those things and to learn how to deal with them when you're dating. So I think for me, one time I realized that, by the way, I will not always have this chance to walk away, go to my home and spend a few days cooling off and I'm fine. I have to learn to deal with the conflict right there, because I will have nowhere to hide when we live together.
Yes.
So making the most of that dating experience to prepare you for marriage, so that you also don't get a bit, a lot of a shocker.
Sure.
And
Thank you, Diana. And for me, my word would be, as much as you can, be open to each other. If you're dating, you're looking at somebody as someone you're going to spend the rest of your life with, be as honest, be as open, be as transparent as you can, because you don't want to project colors that are going to change later on when you get married. So that has been our marriage series this month of November. Thank you for following, thank you for watching, thank you for liking, thank you for commenting. I truly believe it has been a blessing to you, as it has been for us. We thought this could be something just to share. We are not experts. We are still growing. We are still a work in progress, but we are happy with the far that we have come. We look back and say, Ebenezer, that's far the Lord has brought us. So it's been Jesse and Diana sharing with you, and looking forward to interacting with you more in the future. For now, thank you, Diana, for joining me on my channel. Thank you for allowing to be my guest for the last 5 weeks. I appreciate, and God bless you always.
Amen.
Thank you, and God bless you.